CERN Basher is not yet in Austin, but CERN, I understand that you and your family are planning to get into some kind of an autonomous vehicle and have it drive you to Austin as soon as tomorrow.
To go see autonomous vehicles.
Just to go see autonomous vehicles
Doesn't that sound strange?
with no drivers at all.
That's right. Yeah,
Yes.
we have an autonomous vehicle, but I do have to supervise. So we're looking forward to the experience of not having to supervise or pay any attention at all.
Yeah, you think that you might get to actually ride in one of those guys, huh?
I don't know. I don't know. My expectations are low. So I would say today that no, I don't expect that we will, but certainly we would hope to. If we have an opportunity to, we'll take that opportunity.
So there's getting to be quite a crowd down there, although half of the community is in Muskegon or someplace, having some kind of a party up there that I wasn't even invited to. Of course, they know that I wouldn't go, so I guess it would be a useless invitation. But so half the community's there, and the rest are in Austin, and you're going to join them. I guess a lot of those Muskegonites will probably start heading towards Austin as well.
My guess is that they will. We had also hoped to go catch the Starship 10 launch the following weekend,
We're hoping to get to this.
but that is not going to happen.
I don't think there's. I think it's some people are thinking it might be delayed.
I think there's a good reason to believe that. Yes, and Starship 10 does no longer exist.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That was quite the what do they call it? Unintended. I'm always forgetting that word. The
Rudd.
RUD. Yes, a RUD. Yes, it's quite the RUD. Elon though says it's just a scratch.
Yes.
Now, what did he mean by that? Because you can mean scratch, but they talk about a flight being scratched. So I wasn't sure
I think that's intentional on his
that
part.
is intentional.
Yeah, the RUD is a rapid unscheduled disassembly, I think is what happened last night. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's unfortunate. We'll have to find another opportunity to get to Starbase.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm not going to go. If I'm going to go, I'm old. It takes a lot to get me to get on an airplane and fly around the country. But if I'm going to go, I want to see a catch. I
Yeah.
prefer to see two catches, both the booster and the Starship. So I'm kind of waiting for that particular launch if I'm going to make the trip.
Yeah, it was funny because in planning this trip, wasn't even thinking about a Starship launch.
Okay.
And then yesterday evening, I realized that there might be an opportunity to see it.
Yeah.
But of course, the hope for that didn't last too long. And the good news for me is that I hadn't even had the opportunity to tell my kids that we would go see it. So there's no disappointment on their
Yes.
part.
Yes. Yes. Well, that's good. That's good.
Yeah. Managing expectations is critical, Randy.
That's right. Well, there's so anyway, this there's theoretically an event taking place on Sunday if 7 Democratic lawmakers don't get in the way.
We're going to talk about that.
Oh, are you? Okay. Well, then I'll
Yeah.
I'll just let you I'll just let you go before I
You're
completely
getting way ahead of me
obviate
already.
obviate your entire slide deck.
But here is the event that actually is going to happen.
Okay.
This is what's going to happen to the rideshare market.
Yes. Yes. Indeed.
Um, these pictures surfaced this week, I think, out of Nebraska,
Wow.
June 16th. And this one's even more spectacular.
Holy mackerel.
But this is what's coming for rideshare and eventually car ownership.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's Jim here. Still can't believe this happened. Still can't believe this is a photo I took.
That
Nebraska, June
is
16th.
just crazy.
Can't imagine really having a job or a desire to chase these things around, but there's a fair few people that do.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time avoiding them in basements in St. Louis when I was growing up, and fortunately or unfortunately, never got a chance to see a single one.
Yeah. No, I think you count yourself lucky. Um, and then, of course, about 100 years ago, we had this guy. After being forced out of business by taxis, this was a cab driver's last day after 40 years with his horse and carriage.
In 1922.
Yeah.
But you can still get a horse and carriage in New York City today.
Yeah, I think this guy actually may still be working.
He might be.
Yeah. So that's what's coming for
Yeah,
human-driven.
yeah.
vehicles now. So yeah, that's just the way it works.
In
Here's our disclaimer. You probably wondered when I'd insert this.
well, you have to make sure you insert it before you say something silly.
Well, too late for that. This was kind of cool. This is a wrap, I believe, for Model Y.
Oh, wow. It's chill.
Um,
It's really chill.
Very icy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty striking. I'm not sure that it's quite my style, but this is actually pretty clever. Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, for our Canadian friends, this might be something that, I know that they enjoy the cold weather. By the way, I used to live in Canada, so
they must enjoy.
yeah, I did enjoy cold weather for a while.
Yeah.
But in the summertime, you start missing the cold weather. So this would be one way to sort of enjoy that again. Yeah. As long as your friends didn't feel like they needed to take ice axe or something to your car to chip off
Really,
the ice.
really. Yeah, yeah.
Has to be a few Cybertruck photos, Randy.
Of course, of course.
You and I have talked about before how this Cybertruck's a perfect billboard on wheels.
Yep, yep, yep.
Here is ALB Vodka advertising.
I see.
So, don't know. I'm not sure how effective this advertisement is, but it does catch your attention.
If you have any idea what ALB vodka is, it will remind you that you might want to go out tonight and have a little.
Yeah.
Yeah,
In my opinion, they should have the back stocked with it and people can try it out, but
that's right. That's right.
perhaps they do. And then more importantly, here's an image of a Cybertruck doing actual work.
I see.
This guy's doing a little bit of welding here, and he's plugged into the bed of the Cybertruck. And the caption that goes with this from the Cybertruck guy says, "This Cybertruck's owner excavator's bucket broke on the job site. Instead of hauling a 2,800-pound gasoline welder, he backed in the Cybertruck with a 240 volt and got to work. A welder's dream truck."
Nice.
So that is, again, further evidence that the Cybertruck's a pretty useful machine.
Indeed, indeed. Yeah, I was seeing some articles today suggesting that Cybertruck sales are down and wondering why. I continue to wonder why myself. I do think you and I have talked about that if there was going to be one vehicle that people might shy away from because of all the riots and whatnot that were taking place, that would be it. And also, of course, the price point. But I have to believe that if these were selling for 60, 55, something in that neighborhood, there would be a market. But somebody said the other day that the 70,000 one is not actually shipping yet. Is that your understanding, that the 69,950, they're not actually shipping that yet?
Good question. I don't know for sure. I thought we saw quite a few of them in the outbound lot at Giga Texas at one point,
Hmm.
but I don't know. I don't know for sure.
Okay.
I think the 48-hour test drive will help.
Yeah.
Indications that I've seen just from posts on X, so that many people that have tried that. I think there was one guy that posted that his wife was not interested in a Cybertruck, but after trying it out for 48 hours, she was pushing for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's one of those vehicles that when you get to experience, your mind quickly changes.
Yeah.
And then speaking of getting to experience, this guy probably considers himself lucky. He's driving down the highway when a hammer hit the windshield at 70 miles an hour. So another reason, Randy, to get a Cybertruck. Protects you from flying hammers.
I do have trouble when certain words are said. My mind turns into song. And this would be kind of a contraindicator if I had a hammer came to mind. I don't know. I can't help it. It just happens. There's probably a cure.
The cure might involve a hammer, unfortunately. So yeah, let's not be wishing for the cure, perhaps. Yeah.
No, I didn't ever see a follow-up on this as to why a hammer would have somehow found its way to the windshield.
There's a lot of unanswered questions, Randy, and flying hammers is probably one of those things.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, all kinds of things, I guess, fall off the back of, vehicles in front of you.
Sure, sure.
But yeah, that's something. And then Kimball Musk here reposted this, safest car in the world, go Tesla. And I'm not sure if you saw this video, but Tesla was driving in the left-hand lane on a highway. there was a police car that came up on the right side and actually hit a vehicle, which caused it to spin out of control and come into the lane in front of the Tesla. And you can see in the image here, the vehicle is perpendicular to the path of the Tesla. And believe it or not, the Tesla avoided crashing into this vehicle.
Wow.
So that was pretty impressive. I'm not sure that many humans could do that evasive maneuver.
Yeah, yeah. Wow.
Um, and then a Tesla account says if you set up a pin to drive, a thief would not be able to drive off in your Tesla, even if they somehow gain access to your key card, phone, or vehicle. And then this is also kind of cool. The pin pad also appears in a slightly different place on your screen every time. So finger grease doesn't give away your pin, right? That's somebody thought about that. Yeah, that's great.
That is well. What I need is and the next thing will be that you'll have to have a code number sent to your phone. I'm sure that I feel safer because of all of the multi layers of possibilities of getting into things. But man, it kind of drives me crazy.
Yeah. No, this is a nice way to do it.
It's quite something.
Yeah. And here's a list of the highest vehicle thefts.
Ah,
If you drive a Dodge Charger, there's a high likelihood that is stolen at some point.
yep.
Dodge Challenger as well. Infiniti Q50 is third on the list. And then we've got Land Rover, Range Rover. There's a bunch of Kias. Kia appears on the list quite a few times.
Huh.
The vehicle on this list with the largest number of claims is the Honda CR-V. Of course, there's a lot of those out there, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then the Honda Accord also is very high up on the list.
Yeah.
Those are the top two. And then the Dodge Charger, 712.
Wow.
Well, another 200 here above. So yeah, those vehicles, I guess, are sought after. And then on the list of lowest vehicle thefts, Tesla's all over this list. So we've got the Model 3, Model Y, Model X, the Model 3 here again. And down here's the Model S. And you can see the number of claims is in the single digits.
Right. Crazy.
I'd be curious actually as to how these vehicles were actually stolen. I suppose maybe somebody got a hold of the key card.
Maybe, yeah. Huh. Interesting.
So that's good news for Tesla. Another reason to own a Tesla, your vehicle is highly unlikely to be stolen.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Let's just kind of go back. I think that, the media narrative on this has sort of messed with people's minds a little bit in terms of EV sales.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you ask the average person what's happening to EV sales, I think they would probably tell you that last year was a down year. Now, they grew 5% year over year in 2024. 10.8 million vehicles were sold in the world that were EVs last year.
Okay, out of roughly 75, something like that.
Yeah. So, not enough, but it's still a decent chunk, still growing. It's been a difficult environment now, really, for a couple of years, I think, in the automotive industry.
Right.
And certainly last year was a slowing of growth for EV sales. Now we've had that before. You can see here in 2018, 1.4 million. The next year, only 1.5 million.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact we were at 10.3, then it was 10.8, that's going to happen even in a rapidly growing market from time to time. Okay. In China, this is in Q1 of this year. So not the best quarter for Tesla, but this is EV sales overall in China, all manufacturers. Battery electric vehicles accounted for 27% of vehicle sales.
Mm-hmm.
So China is well on its way, in terms of EV adoption. In Europe, BEVs 17%. Okay, and then in the U.S. it's 8%. So we are lagging the two other markets.
Yeah, I've made the claim for a very long time. I will continue to believe this is true. when gasoline is under $3 most of the time in most of the United States, it makes it much harder to get people to flip.
Yeah. Yep. Now, things like higher insurance rates may counter that a little bit,
Man, true.
but yeah, there's other costs. So I sort of feel like this falls in this category of wisdom. Nah, I'm seeking a good narrative. And that's been the approach I think that the mainstream media has focused on with EVs.
Well, with everything.
With everything. Yeah, exactly.
Forget the
Yeah.
wisdom and the facts. Just
Yeah.
good narrative. Yeah.
So I came across this study in reading a post from a guy with who works at Altimeter Capital, one of the partners there actually wrote a post, and he included the results of the study. Now, there were some interesting things in the study, Randy, but overall, I think I would say that this study is suspect in terms of its methodology. First of all, I can't find out who's behind the electric vehicle intelligence report.
Oh,
There's nothing on the website that really says who they are.
I
Even
see.
this about button doesn't really illuminate anything about them
Huh.
up here at the top. Now they do say that they surveyed more than 8,000 U.S. consumers, weighted by education, race, gender, age, income, and geography. That's all they say.
Mhm.
The report to me seems very, very biased against Tesla.
Interesting.
And this is interesting here, right? Just the commentary right up front, right? This is the executive dashboards. This is the first thing you read. Tesla's extended slide. Despite Elon Musk's step away from politics, Tesla's brand reputation continues to decline on key metrics with no signs of reprieve. I'm not sure that that's a statement that you would make if you were just an independent observer, but maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
And their conclusion is that robotaxis face steep headwinds. Consumer skepticism of both robotaxis and their underlying autonomous driving capabilities suggests they will struggle to achieve acceptance nationally. Maybe, and this is worth thinking about. So we'll take a look at some of the information they share on that. But
Okay.
and then the third one that again raises my spidey sense in terms of suspect conclusions. Toyota poised for success. So maybe we have our answer here in terms of who's behind this. It's probably
Right.
Toyota. Right. And then charging market, highly diverse. EV chargers and home battery storage see a diverse set of consumer sentiment leaders. And we'll discuss that in a second in a bit more detail. But this is kind of an interesting report. But again, I couldn't figure out who's behind this organization. Okay. What's your reaction to this chart, Randy? This is showing here for each brand of EV.
Yeah.
Say whether you have a positive, negative, or neutral view of the brand. Okay. Now this is EV brands.
Yes.
Okay. So who's at the top here? We've got Toyota.
At the top in terms of their people being
right here. They were just added to. It says Toyota was added to this May survey as a result of crossing 2% market share threshold and its partnership with Waymo. Okay, so Toyota is at the top because they just crossed the 2% market share threshold.
Nice.
How is that even possible?
Yeah.
Anyway, Honda is second, or was at the top by a country mile. Okay, then we have Audi, BMW, and a few other unnamed companies here. That we've got Rivian, and then Lucid, and then VinFast, and then all the way down in the negative below the zero line is Tesla. Again, we're talking about EVs here, not just all cars.
Yeah, I get it. And why does Lucid have such a negative view? Also, I haven't noticed that they haven't been participating in any kind of political discourse.
It's very strange.
And does VinFast have 2% market share? I can't believe that's not true.
Well, yeah, good point.
In fact, Lucid, there's no way Lucid has 2% market share.
Yeah. And Lucid's on the rise. It's kind of the only one that's trending up in this chart.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Now this is from April to May. It's 2 months, but
Yeah.
so that was kind of weird.
That's pretty weird.
Then we get to this table, EV brand perception, safety. Okay. Toyota. Okay, so what it looks like what they did here is they surveyed people considering buying an EV,
Yeah.
those who were not buying an EV and already own an EV.
Oh, I see.
So they took the considerations from those three categories and came up with the all category there, the first row column of numbers. So
Right.
Toyota gets 80%, right? Because people that were considering buying an EV believe that Toyota is very safe. And those that own a Toyota or own any EV, I guess, thinks that Toyota is very safe. Right. And even those who are not buying an EV think that Toyota is at the top of the list. This just seems weird to me. Okay. And then we've got, Honda, Nissan, Chevrolet go all the way down. Second from the bottom, just above VinFast is Tesla.
Yeah. Well, and on already own an EV, which would be well over 50% in the United States, for Tesla to be at, well, 78% is a lot better than their other numbers, but still all these other companies are in the 80s and 90s on people who own an EV already. Yeah, you're right. It makes no sense. However, if I was Tesla and I gave it any credibility at all, this might cause me to think I need to advertise.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to do some more digging. None of this
Yeah.
seems anywhere near possibly accurate in my opinion, but yeah. And then we've got, okay, so there's a whole bunch more tables and charts we could look at, but kind of giving you the gist of this here.
Sure.
Let's look at charging infrastructure.
Okay.
Okay. How many people can name charging infrastructure companies? Probably none.
Yeah,
Some,
I would have a hard time, and I do this 10 hours a day.
yeah. I haven't even heard of some of these companies here on the left.
No, I haven't. No, me either.
Okay. So ChargePoint Home Flex Level 2 EV charger gets an interest score of 63.
Wow.
And Tesla's wall connector gets 28. It's the lowest on the list by far. Now, of the currently considering category, it got the highest percentage.
Okay. All right.
In the open to considering, got the lowest. And would never consider, is one of the highest. I would never consider this. So strong bias against Tesla here, but why would these people be open to considering these companies they've never even heard of before? I mean, I guarantee you these 8,000 people have never heard of any of these names.
Never heard of them. Yeah.
Right. And again, we don't know the wording of their questions.
No.
It's just puzzling to me. Right. So that was that.
Yep. Yeah.
And then home battery storage system models. Okay, consumers who have owned or are considering purchasing a home battery storage system, the Tesla Powerwall is at the bottom of the list.
Wow.
Again, have you heard of all these?
No, I didn't know that there was more. I think 𝐒𝐚𝐿G I've heard of.
Yeah.
I think that might be LG. We know LG. I don't know how many home battery systems they sell, but I think 𝐒𝐚𝐿G might be a serious contender in the US market.
Yeah.
But that's all I would know.
It's interesting, isn't it? I would love to understand the methodology behind this a bit deeper, but they don't give me the opportunity to.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's some conclusions. The long haul trends to watch. What is Tesla's time scale? Elon Musk is not out of the limelight, but Tesla isn't out of the doldrums. As we see early evidence that a reputational turnaround for Tesla will take considerable time to materialize, if it ever does. Is that necessary to say that if you were a neutral third party to add that little jab? No. So again, I do not think that this is an unbiased survey.
Right.
Commissioned either by Toyota, Waymo, or who knows who. If maybe not Waymo, because this sort of takes to task robotaxis. Can robotaxis achieve scale? It says with consumers markedly hesitant towards robotaxi technology, What happens when the rubber meets the road and robotaxi rides become more widely available? That's kind of a nothing question in my opinion, but will Toyota and Waymo get the job done? Toyota's brand reputation is sterling, Randy,
Yeah, yeah.
topping most consumer measures, including positive perception of potential self-driving cars. Does Toyota have those? Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, their partnership with Waymo, will their partnership with Waymo bear fruit, or will it be held back by wider consumer resistance? Do consumers actually want self-driving? Beneath robotaxi reluctance lies limited consumer interest in autonomous vehicles, raising larger questions about cultural norms that may stand in the way of the technology's convenience and safety benefits. This reminds me of the, I'm not sure who said this, but if you ask people what they wanted, in the early 1900s, they would have asked for a faster horse,
Right.
right? Not the automobile. And
Right.
I forget who said that. I'm not sure if it's Henry Ford or somebody, but something along those lines, right? Right. And I think Steve Jobs also has a similar sort of type quote where if you ask people what they want, you wouldn't get what we have today.
Absolutely not. But
Yeah.
it's a little easier. I think people are so familiar with automobiles. It's a little easier to ask them that question and say, "Hey, wouldn't it be great to have a car that drove itself?" And now you might have to set the question up where you would be able to work or play a game or just chat with your friends, actually look them in the eye while you're chatting, text on your machine without being in violation of the law, all these kind of things. You might have to set the question up that way.
Yeah.
Would that be interesting to you as opposed to just a straightforward question? Would you like your car to drive itself?
Or a question probably like Elon Musk is a very divisive figure. Do you want to be in his robotaxi kind of thing? Yeah. We don't actually know how they worded the questions. Do you want to be held hostage by Elon Musk and his robotaxi?
What we
Yeah.
do know is that Waymo has been taking market share rapidly in every market that it's gone into, taking it away from Uber and Lyft. And that is with an ugly machine that is 40 to 50% more expensive than Uber and Lyft. So it seems as if the public is pretty ready to jump into driverless vehicles.
It does, doesn't it? Yep. So this little cartoon, I think, sums it up for me. Less noise, more clarity is kind of what we're looking for here. Surveys, I find, don't really offer that. Maybe give us some interesting things to think about, but I don't take survey results with really much grain of salt. I don't really rely on them. I think you need to be very careful, particularly when you can't determine who's behind the survey and how they did it.
Right.
But as part of this, I think this was kind of interesting when they talked about the excitement factors around robotaxi. So 17% of the respondents said no pressure to tip is at the top of their list. That was tied with giving it the elderly and disabled more mobility. That's fantastic. And then avoiding inappropriate or unprofessional driver behavior. Again, that relates to the comment you just made about Waymo taking market share in San Francisco. A lot of people have reported that they just don't want to deal with drivers. That may also be related to the tip issue, right? If you don't have a human driver, you don't have to tip, you don't have to deal with them. Reduces traffic by optimizing routes and avoiding congestion. That's kind of interesting. That seems to me like that's something most people wouldn't really think about.
No.
I can do other things in the car. I think for me, this is the top of the list.
Sure.
When I see people on their phones in their cars, they're really telling us that this is what they want.
Right.
Right. I think most people maybe don't admit it, but to me, this would be at the top of the list. The rides would be cheaper. I think that's ultimately going to be true. Self-driving cars will follow traffic laws. Okay, that's true to a fault. Actually stopping at stop signs when no one does. Excitement about cutting-edge technology is on the list. Could reduce my need to own a car. Some people are recognizing that. That's great. Door-to-door service. This is the whole disruption of public transportation idea is that you no longer have to walk to the bus stop.
Right, right.
and then walk from the train station to your, wherever you're going. You can just go door to door, and then fewer emissions, and then none of these, 40%, just don't care
Where's
about any of this stuff.
where is the reduction in deaths and injuries?
Um, Good question, Randy. I guess these respondents just don't care about the well-being of other people.
Well, this probably was you think this is an open-ended question or they gave a list? I mean, reduction in deaths and injuries is right at the top of the list of what Tesla's trying to accomplish.
Well, the fact that it says none of these
Yeah, none.
would seem to imply that they were provided a list and that people selected them.
Yeah.
And then 40% said, no, I don't care
You
about
don't
any
care
of this
about
stuff.
this.
Yeah. And then this is the list of factors driving concern about autonomous
Oh,
and or self-driving taxis. So 36% said a lack of human judgment that's needed for driving. So again, people not understanding where the technology is at right now.
sure, sure.
Um, no human help available in case something goes wrong during a ride. Okay, I can see that as being a concern.
But wait a minute, wait a minute. I don't have any human help now if something goes
Oh,
wrong in my own car.
yeah,
I'm the only human that I have available to do that. Yeah.
yep, no, good point. Unsafe or not sufficiently well tested. Okay, I can see people there that, again,
Yep.
most people just haven't followed the development of the technology. How a vehicle makes ethical decisions in dangerous situations. How do humans make ethical decisions in dangerous situations, Randy?
Let's see, if I turn to the left, I'm only going to kill one pedestrian, but if I turn to the right, I might kill 12. The old bridge thing. Anyway,
The
yeah,
trolley problem, yeah.
yeah.
Reliance on sensors that might be unreliable. Well, they're getting to something there. That's the knock against LiDAR. Um, Discomfort with not being in control. Well, that's the backseat driver syndrome, I
Sure,
guess,
sure. Yeah, yeah.
which they already have, I think, in terms of just taking a ride hail or a taxi now.
Or riding with your spouse.
Right. Yeah. Performance in bad weather or unusual conditions. Okay, I get that.
Actually,
Eliminating
actually,
well-paid.
actually, this is one of the ones that really might take some advertising or something. There is no way in the world that these autonomous vehicles are going to be less successful in these circumstances than humans are.
Right.
Anything, they'll be more successful.
Yeah.
They're in no way are they going to be less successful.
They will know their own limitations, whereas human drivers maybe don't.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was driving on I-75 a few months ago in a rainstorm, and a car in front of me spun out of control.
Yeah.
So a human driver just not aware of, the risks, the limitations.
Florida,
I felt safe in a big, heavy Cybertruck, right? But
Florida is one of the only places in the world where I got off the road. The gully washer was so bad
yeah,
that I had to just I got it over and got into a parking lot.
yeah, no, nothing wrong with that. And then the last three, eliminating well-paying taxi and driving jobs. Well, that's the guy in the horse and the carriage.
Right.
Um, yeah, that sucks, but you know what? That's how we make progress in this
Yeah.
world, as we,
Yeah.
all right. The possibility of companies tracking my data. Well, okay. I'm sure they're using apps in their phone. Um, and then 5%, none of these.
Wow. So only 5% check none of these on the negatives. Um, wait a minute. Yeah, on the concerns, but 40% couldn't find a single one of the positives that interested them. This is
Yeah.
very bizarre.
It seems a little bit odd, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I'm a little concerned that they use my name,
Oh, yeah, that concerns me too.
but I've gotten used to that, Randy.
I know.
It's a problem I've dealt with my entire
And the
life.
fact that people are always putting, something about, somebody who's just gotten out of jail in front of your name. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or that could be just a negative CERN, a
Could
cons
just be a negative CERN.
negative CERN. Yeah. All right, so these are a an analysis of people who don't really have any access to yet, probably have never ridden in a vehicle with autonomy. But what we're seeing on the ground, at least with regard to Waymo, and I think that's been good. People said of Steve Jobs that he would never wanted to be first out of the gate. He always wanted to be second. He wanted
Yeah.
to watch what was going on with the guy that was the first, and then come back with something better. So I think this is what's happening with Waymo right now is that Tesla is able to watch what Waymo's doing, seeing what they're doing good, see what they're doing bad. But the evidence, all the evidence is they're expanding rapidly. If they didn't have Tesla nipping at their heels, this could have been a very, very successful product and maybe still will be. Although it would seem like in the Google sphere, you have to do some pretty significant volume to be a significant needle mover. And
Yeah.
I just sense, as is just my opinion, that Tesla's going to kick their butt.
We shall see. We shall see. But I also appreciate the effort that Waymo uh, have done, have attempted over the last 15 years. We can find fault with them in terms of their approach with LiDAR. I think a lot of us in the Tesla community kind of find their reluctance to move away from that as kind of humorous. But they've gotten to where they are today. They're trying to scale. I do believe that Tesla will have the ability to scale much more rapidly than Waymo, therefore making it not a very competitive situation for very long.
Mhm.
But we'll see. Perhaps Google will surprise us.
Yeah. So the other day, there was a lot of conversation back and forth about this report from Bloomberg with the saying that the Waymos are 7 times as expensive as a Tesla, and it didn't say which Tesla. So I just took it as meaning the cyber cab that'll be out next year, which might be around 16,000, but 7 times 16,000 is still way over $100,000. And I had gotten the impression from various articles that I've seen that maybe they're spending 50,000, 45, 50, 55,000 on that Jaguar. Some of these new ones coming from Kia or Hyundai, some of those might be less, maybe to get it down to 40,000 or something like that. And that the LiDAR and the installation on the LiDAR is also coming down rapidly to
Mhm.
where that might only be costing them 5 or 6,000. Also assume that their chip is probably going to be double or triple the Tesla chip, so maybe 2 or 3,000 there. I mean, altogether, I'm thinking more like maybe they're going to be paying 60, 65,000 for what's going to cost Tesla 16,000, but that's nowhere near a 7x. What is your general sense of this?
Well, the numbers I saw, I think, was a comparison of the Model Y versus a vehicle that for Waymo cost something like $180,000.
Yeah,
Now, I think to your point, I think that's changing rapidly for Waymo, and of course, the te cost for Tesla will come down as they move to the Cybercab.
right.
But I think this will be an issue for Waymo long term.
Yes.
They obviously have to get the cost of these vehicles down and ultimately be competitive with Tesla. If they can't do that, they're going to be at a massive competitive disadvantage.
Yeah, I did the analysis using what I just said, using 16,000 and using, 55-ish, 60-ish, something like that for Waymo. I also used them not getting as good a number of miles out of the vehicle before they had to trash it or sell it. And I came up with something like 10 cents a mile difference in cost of goods.
Yeah.
And so, if you're talking about Elon's 20, uh, 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 Kathy Wood, I think, is also at 20 cents a mile as kind of the ultimate shot. And you add 10 cents to that, that is a 50% difference just on the cost of hardware per mile. Not per, that's that's a significant difference when you're trying to compete in the real world. But anyway, that's where I'm right now on it.
And the other thing too, you mentioned a minute ago about being second, and this is actually a favorable thing for Tesla because they can just essentially go into the markets where Waymo has already been approved. right? And it should be relatively easier for Tesla to get approval also in those markets to operate.
Not only get approval, but the consumer is already aware of the idea of self-driving vehicles. So they're not as shocked by them in terms of those who are contemplating or thinking about using them and or just in traffic, being more used to the idea of a driverless vehicle in traffic.
So if you think about, so yes, good point. But if you think about them then following their footsteps in San Francisco,
Yeah.
following footsteps in Phoenix, following in footsteps where Waymo's going in Atlanta and other cities, Austin as well, obviously Waymo's there. Tesla could easily get to a scale more quickly in those markets if they wanted to.
Right.
They wouldn't have to undercut Waymo much
No.
to effectively put Waymo out of business in all those cities. So they can undercut Waymo before Waymo even has an opportunity to scale.
Right.
So that's going to be fascinating, I think, to watch this over the next couple of years to see how that plays out. If Waymo could scale more rapidly, then they could actually put a lot of pressure on Tesla.
Yes.
But from what we've seen, that's not really likely to happen for them.
Not even in the realm of possibility. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, Tesla can flood the zone wherever they choose to flood the zone.
Yeah. Yeah. And as of next weekend, the vehicles can leave the factory autonomously and be put in service somewhere.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, CERN, this is part one of two parts. And so for folks that are watching this on, I think, Thursday night, probably, stay tuned for either a Friday night or Saturday sometime, part two. And if you didn't already check it out, for sure, do not fail to go back and look at the Brian Wong video from last night. I'll put the card right here where he and I talk about the future in ways you have not heard before. Many subject matters that we discussed in that video that is brand new, breaking news. And from Brian Wong, the futurist, the actual certified futurist.
Good stuff.
He could be a certified. Maybe we get him to be not only certified but certified.
Oh, getting certified is very expensive, Randy.
Okay. That's probably I hadn't thought. Yeah. Okay. As always, CERN. Thank you so much for coming on. And to all of you out there, it's been great talking to you.